Good morning, good day, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Yusuf Amanullah, and welcome to The Third Culture. Or am I, in fact, Yusuf Amanullah? Is this really the third culture? And most importantly, does it even matter? You're watching this either way. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in a post-truth society, we have to keep second-guessing ourselves and pretty much doubt everything and anything anyone says. Take even that with a pinch of salt. So, what exactly is post-truth? Why are we beating around the bush? Why don't we call it for what it is? Straight up lying. Well, ironically, because that's not necessarily true. See, post-truth isn't so much about falsifying the truth. No, instead, it's about dismissing facts right from the get-go. What matters is the emotion, the cojones, the chutzpah with which you say something. The louder you scream, the more what you say matters. Truth and expertise take a back seat when you can Google just about anything that will support your views. I mean, why do I need a doctor to tell me I'm gonna die from my cough in less than 24 hours when I have WebMD to do that for me? It's important to actually understand post-truth in terms of its origins, implications, and future impact so that we can learn from our mistakes and become better at spotting it. Because Lord knows, we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So with that in mind, let's get into it. While many believe that the Brexit and Trump campaigns are the beginnings of post-truth, the phrase has in fact been thrown around for more than 20 years. However, it's meant different things in the past. In 1992, when it's believed it first originated, it was more to describe the covering up of truths rather than disregarding them. And this was primarily citing the examples of the dirty tactics played in Watergate or the covering up of many of the atrocities in the Gulf War. Fast forward to 2016, and post-truth becomes the talk of the town, with a few critical moments in Western politics. In an attempt to gain support, the Brexit's Vote Leave campaign started plastering onto any form of public transport the fact that we were sending £50 million a day to the EU, which could be better spent on services like the NHS. They conveniently forgot to mention that with all the rebates we get, the figure is nowhere near this. But of course, in a time where the small print doesn't matter, people fell for it, as these three stooges laughed their way to victory in the referendum. The hilarious thing is that Mr. Farage, only a few hours after winning the election, went on national television and actually backtracked on this figure, saying that stating this figure was one of the mistakes the Leave campaign made. Not only that, but less than 2 weeks after the referendum, Nigel decided to quit UKIP to take back control of his own life. Imagine being so spineless that you actually become one of the Muppets. And then, of course, came the Trump campaign. It's funny how we've never woken up from that nightmare. Throughout his campaign to make America great again, Donald Trump rarely ever resorted to the facts. Instead, everything revolved around him speaking from his mind and from his heart. It's just a shame we never knew his heart was closer to his ass than where it should be. What Trump did fantastically well was promote the idea of fake news. In a time where clickbait meant that anyone, even some credible news sources, would say or do just about anything to get eyes on their websites for ad revenue, Donald Trump capitalized on this by saying that anything bad published about him was the spreading of said fake news, even when it was actually true. In a similar vein, he also stopped the White House's subscriptions to the New York Times and Washington Post. And with this, he was grabbing everyone's attention, as well as something else. And in the end, distrust grew throughout America for journalists and experts, and so no one took what they said seriously. And not only that, but Mr. Trump loved creating a good rumor. The Regina George of politics, this man loved a good conspiracy theory, like with Barack Obama's birth certificate. And why did he spread them? Really to attack people's character based on a hunch he had. However, this set a precedent for others to follow, so much so that it almost got people hurt. A fake news site spread a rumor that emails released by WikiLeaks from Joe Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, contained coded messages about a human trafficking ring that was being run through various restaurants, one of them being Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria. What is worrying is the fact that a man, after reading this fake news story, decided to take matters into his own hands, as he took his own rifle to the restaurant and decided to open fire. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the process. We've heard pineapple on pizza causing quite a stir. How about broken glass and bullet cases? It's worrying that thanks to such narrative being promoted by the Donald, there's a blurred line between fact and fiction. Credible and fake news stories now hold the same weight, and those none the wiser are willing to, in fact, act on fake news stories because they have a hunch that it could well be real. Though they were never cool, facts are now even more uncool than before. At least before, people appreciated someone talking with knowledge and expertise, but now that doesn't even matter, so long as what is said sounds right to you. Which makes me think, actually, what good was it me telling you all that I just did? Why should I be wasting my time when the facts just don't matter? Why can't I just say whatever I want with enough emotion that you'll believe me? Which brings me on to our segment, I think I'm right, therefore I am. Yes, I'm sure that's what Descartes was alluding to, so we're just going to run with it. In light of the era that we live in, it's time to talk about something that I believe is true, which of course therefore means it is. Global warming simply doesn't exist. Just as Mr. Trump has said many a time, this is simply a hoax to make good local products and services of American muscle cars and oversized fast food meals uncompetitive. However, I believe there is someone else other than China that is pushing this narrative. A certain Mr. Elon Musk. Now, of course, before you millennials with your fake news start hating on me, hear me out. First off, let's talk about greenhouse gases. I don't see them anywhere, so how can they exist? Are you really telling me that something invisible is harming our planet? Give me a break. Next, you'll be telling me that secondhand smoking is harmful to children. All it does is toughen up their lungs. Secondly, as pointed out by the president, even Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, has called global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, a hoax. When someone so esteemed in the field is telling you this, it's time to wake up. And despite the fact that Greenpeace has provided solid evidence to suggest that this man has little to no relationship with the NGO and was never in fact a co-founder, we're putting this down to tell him, Donald.
Fake news. Fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
Fake news. And finally, though I agree with Donny Boy over here on the fact that climate change is a hoax, I do not believe that China is responsible. Instead, the true puppeteer behind this elaborate scheme, in my opinion, is Elon Musk, all in an attempt to sell his overpriced Priuses and oversized Lego cars. At the end of the day, with all these new rules and regulations for motor vehicles, other competitors simply can't compete and innovate in time. And it's all thanks to the paranoia that the world is getting a little bit hotter. At the same time, Elon Musk is laughing his way to the bank, with third quarter earnings for this year beating expectations. Could it really be because of the fact that Tesla cars are actually highly innovative, have a good brand image, and the technology is finally catching on? Of course not. That's too much of a coincidence. No, it must be that Elon Musk has planted this insane idea in our heads that we could actually be damaging our own planet with the carelessness of our actions, and so we have to turn to his inventions for our salvation. How people have fallen for this, I will never know. Once again, as is the general theme with this show, all of this is rather ludicrous, but the sentiment is not entirely far-fetched. And the reason why it's so important to tackle post-truth is because it does a really good job of polarizing people. And while we've seen divisions of opinion in the past over all sorts of things, this time it's particularly bad. This time round, differing opinions can't even wrestle or interact with each other because it's not just about opposing interpretations of facts. They don't even agree on the fundamentals of facts in the first place, so there can't be any engagement. And I mean, when it comes to what we believe here at the Third Culture, there's not much else to say, really. Making up stories and conspiracies to create division amongst people because you feel it to be true is the antithesis of what we believe in. And in a time when we can even computer generate our world leaders saying and doing as we please, it is ever so important to be wary of the damage this causes. When we can literally start putting words in other people's mouths, trust disappears. And it's this distrust that creates a roadblock that prevents people from working together on issues. And my goodness, do we have some issues to address. Nevertheless, I can assure you that if you stick around with the show, you'll have nothing to worry about. Not because we're journalists with integrity, but rather because you know that if I've said something over here, it's most likely bullshit. So you can just Brush that news to one side. Even so, I hope you liked what you just saw. And if you did, then please like and subscribe. And please check out our other content, links in the description below. And for those of you that didn't like it, I offer you the exact same advice. Join us next week for another episode of The Third Culture. In the meantime, take care, love yourself and all of those around you. Goodbye.